Some dates are written in calendars, others are carved into destiny. The final days of August belong to the second kind. These are not just hours passing by, they are gates, and once you step through, you are no longer the same. Throughout history, initiates and seekers were told to be cautious at such thresholds, not because of superstition, but because of the unseen. A single word spoken carelessly, a single touch accepted without awareness, these things could alter the inner current, disturb the fire that was meant to be guarded. The old masters knew when energy is shifting, when endings and beginnings overlap. The smallest disturbance can echo for months to come. This is why, in these last August days, you are asked to stand firm in your discipline, to guard your body, your silence, your breath, because touch here is not just touch, it is transfer, it is imprint, it is weight you may carry long after the moment has passed. In this teaching, I will show you why restraint in this period sharpens your spirit, why solitude refines your strength, and why silence itself becomes your shield. You will see the hidden law behind these days, and understand why those who respect it move into September lighter, freer, and unshakable. Stay with me until the end, for what I will share is not for the curious, it is for the chosen. This is Shaolin Soulfire. Welcome to our path. Subscribe now, and step with us through the fire of discipline into the clarity beyond. There is a reason the old masters walked with such stillness. Every step, every gesture was deliberate. They knew that nothing in this world is neutral. Speech carries weight, breath shapes the mind, movement leaves echoes, and touch is the most direct exchange of all. Think of it this way, when someone places a hand upon you, they are not only touching your body, they are pressing their state of being into you. Their unrest, their anger, their fatigue, even their scattered thoughts flow across in that instant. You may not see it, but you will feel it later as heaviness in your chest, as distraction in your mind, as unrest in your sleep. This is not imagination, it is the silent law of energy. In the temple we were taught to observe how a single word from a troubled man can shift the whole atmosphere of a room. That same law is amplified when the contact is physical. A steady hand from a master can calm the nervous mind of a disciple. But the same rule means an anxious grip can transmit its chaos into the one who receives it. This is why restraint becomes essential during certain thresholds of time. The final days of August are not casual days. They are days when energy runs high, when clarity is needed to step forward with strength. To allow careless touch during such a passage is to inherit confusion that is not yours. A Shaolin path is not only about striking or meditating, it is about guarding the unseen exchanges of daily life. Protecting your energy is no less important than protecting your breath. And in times of transition it becomes the most important practice of all. A man once asked a master how to gain strength of spirit. The master did not hand him new practices, nor did he give him more tasks. Instead he told him to sit in silence and resist the urge to move. The student thought this was too simple, but within minutes he discovered the truth. The real challenge was not in doing more, but in withholding what he had always given away, his restless energy, his constant need for expression. Self-mastery is this art of withholding. It is the discipline of saying no when every part of you wants to say yes, to hold back a word, to remain still when provoked, to choose not to accept a careless touch. These are not signs of weakness, but of hidden strength. In these choices, subtle power is forged. Shaolin discipline has always been less about outward show and more about inward control. A warrior may know 1,000 techniques, but if he cannot restrain his anger, his art is empty. The silence between movements, the stillness between breaths, these are the places where true strength lives. To remain untouched in body and in mind is to cultivate a field of clarity that cannot be disturbed. Withholding is not rejection, it is refinement. It is the practice of conserving your energy so that it may rise pure and undiluted when the time is right. Just as a bow must be drawn back before the arrow can fly, the spirit must learn to restrain before it can act with precision. In silence power gathers, in stillness, mastery matures. What is withheld today becomes the strength that guides tomorrow. The body has never been only flesh and bone. It is the container of spirit, the house of intention, the silent bridge between the seen and the unseen. In the ancient schools, it was called a vessel fragile in appearance, yet carrying currents that shape destiny. To walk with awareness is to treat this vessel with reverence, guarding not only its strength but also its silence. During times of transition, this guarding becomes even more vital. When seasons shift, when endings and beginnings overlap, the inner current of a person grows sensitive, like a flame in the wind. It does not take much to disturb it. A careless touch, a sudden word, a hand placed without thought, all of these can ripple through the body's stillness, scattering the clarity that was carefully gathered. Think of a lake at dawn. Its surface is calm, reflecting the sky with perfect clarity, yet a single stone tossed into it sends ripples across the entire expanse. What was once mirror-like becomes broken. Unable to hold the same reflection, the body too responds in this way. In moments of heightened energy, a touch is like the stone, small in action, wide in consequence. This is why the elders spoke of conserving one's space. They were not teaching coldness or separation, but discipline. To guard the vessel is to honor the spirit within it. To protect the stillness of the lake is to preserve the clarity that allows wisdom to rise. When the inner waters remain undisturbed, intention flows straight and true, carrying the individual across the threshold without losing balance. This is the way of those who seek mastery, not to avoid the world, but to walk through it without letting their vessel be shaken. There is a story of a disciple who asked how to withstand the storms of life. The master placed a candle before him and opened the window. The flame flickered wildly in the wind, nearly extinguished. Then the master cupped his hands around it. The flame grew steady again. Your breath, he said, is this shield. Without it, every passing wind will control you. Mindful breathing is not just a practice of calm. It is the foundation of inner protection. When the breath is shallow, scattered in the chest, the mind drifts and emotions seize control. But when the breath sinks deep into the lower abdomen, it anchors the body like roots of a great tree. From this rootedness, the storms may come, yet the vessel remains unmoved. In the ancient training halls, before a single strike was taught, breath was the first lesson. Warriors learned that strength does not begin in the arms or legs, but in the steady flow of air through the body. To master breath was to master presence, and to master presence was to be unshakable. During sacred transitions, when energy is heightened and the body becomes sensitive, this breath becomes the shield that guards against intrusion. A careless word, an unexpected touch, even the chaos of the world pressing in, none can disturb the one who holds their breath steady in the lower field of the body. This is the place the elders called the sea of energy, the wellspring from which vitality rises. When anchored here, the mind clears, the spirit strengthens, and the body becomes a fortress of calm. Breath mastery is not an addition to practice. It is the first defense, the silent shield that allows the vessel to remain whole while the world moves restlessly around it. In the old teachings, the body was often described as a furnace. Breath was the bellows, movement was the stirring of coals, and awareness was the flame itself. This inner fire, called chi, is not mere warmth. It is life's current, the hidden force that shapes vitality, clarity, and strength. To cultivate it requires patience, discipline, and the quiet endurance of daily practice. When this fire burns steady, others can feel it even without words. A room grows calmer in your presence, or people find themselves drawn to your silence. But there is another side to this truth. When someone makes contact, even with the smallest touch, they unconsciously draw from that flame. They may not intend to, yet the body, like a wick, shares its fire with whatever comes close. This is why careless touch, during sensitive times, can leave one unexpectedly drained, as though the spark has been diminished. The final days of August are not ordinary days. They carry the weight of transition, where the inner fire is needed most to step into what lies ahead. To allow it to scatter now, to let it be pulled away through unnecessary contact, is to weaken the very strength required for passage. In Shaolin discipline, conserving energy is seen as wisdom, not deprivation. Just as a lantern burns longer when shielded from the wind, the spirit shines brighter when protected from needless leaks. To guard the flame is not selfish, it is sacred duty, for only by conserving the fire within can one illuminate the path ahead. In these days, restraint is not loss. It is the quiet mastery of keeping the furnace alive, so that when the new season begins, the flame burns clear and unbroken. A wise elder once said that words are like arrows, once released, they cannot return. But fewer understand that words, like hands, also touch. They press upon the mind, they settle into the heart, they leave traces long after the sound has faded. This is why silence has always been held as a form of protection, a shield not forged of iron, but of restraint. In the monasteries, silence was not imposed as punishment. It was practiced as discipline. To speak less was to guard energy, to keep the mind from scattering across endless conversations. Every unnecessary word was seen as a small leak, just as every careless touch was a ripple in the still lake of the spirit. To reduce both was to preserve the vessel of clarity. During periods of heightened energy, silence becomes even more essential. It narrows the path, allowing attention to flow inward rather than being pulled into the noise of the world. Fewer words spoken means fewer imprints received. In this way, silence itself forms an invisible shield around the heart, filtering what enters and what leaves. Think of a warrior standing at the edge of battle. His greatest strength is not in swinging wildly, but in holding his ground, conserving every ounce of force until the right moment. Silence is that same posture in daily life. It is the still readiness that prevents waste, the shield that keeps distractions from piercing the core. To walk with fewer words and fewer interactions is not isolation, it is refinement. It is the practice of keeping the field of energy pure, so that what is carried forward is not borrowed weight, but the clear essence of one's own spirit. In this restraint, silence proves to be not emptiness, but hidden strength. There are seasons in life when the world itself becomes a teacher, when circumstances press us toward silence, solitude, and restraint. These moments are not punishments, though they may feel heavy at first. They are hidden initiations, gates that separate those who merely pass through time from those who awaken within it. To remain in solitude without grasping for company or craving touch is to sharpen the blade of spirit. Most people fear stillness because it confronts them with themselves. Yet in the ancient paths, this was seen as the highest training. A warrior does not temper his sword by striking endlessly. He tempers it by allowing the fire and the cold water to refine its edge. In the same way, solitude is the fire, and your own silence is the water. Together they harden the spirit until it rings clear and unbreakable. It is easy to mistake solitude for isolation, but true solitude is not an empty room. It is a full presence. It is a time when the noise of the outer world falls away, and the inner voice rises strong. Here, without the distraction of constant contact, you begin to sense the currents within, the breath flowing steady, the energy gathering, the awareness expanding. The elders taught that refinement does not come from endless activity, but from knowing when to step back and let the dust settle. A muddy pool becomes clear not by stirring it, but by leaving it untouched. In the same way, a spirit burdened by the world becomes clear in solitude. To endure this hidden initiation is to discover freedom, the freedom that comes when you no longer depend on others to steady you. You walk forward lighter, sharper, untangled, carrying only what is truly yours. In the path of discipline, choices are often misunderstood. To withdraw, to remain untouched, to walk with restraint, these are not acts of rejection, they are acts of preservation. The one who chooses distance in such times does not push others away out of coldness, but rather pulls inward to guard the sacred flame within. This is not separation, it is purification. The Shaolin masters taught that purity is not fragile, it is powerful. A clear spring can nourish villages, but a spring muddied by careless steps loses its strength. So too with the spirit. When clarity is preserved, it becomes a force that steadies the mind and strengthens the body. When it is scattered by constant interference, the inner current weakens. Purity, then, is not emptiness. It is concentrated power. Clarity is the companion of this purity. In training halls, students were reminded that a single clear strike, born from silence and focus, is worth more than 100 frantic blows. The same truth applies to the spirit. One clear thought, one clear intention, aligned with higher order, can reshape the course of life. To protect your field, your body, your breath, your silence, is to step into harmony with this higher order. It is like tuning an instrument until its string vibrates in perfect pitch. When the vessel is guarded, it resonates with something greater than itself, and in this resonance, the individual finds both strength and peace. This practice is not about denying others, but about preparing the self. By conserving the essence within, you stand ready to engage the world with clarity rather than confusion, with strength rather than weakness. It is in this purification that discipline becomes freedom, and restraint reveals its hidden power. There is a difference between hearing a teaching and embodying it. Words may guide, but they are only signposts. True mastery is measured not by how well one can explain a principle, but by how deeply one can live it. A lesson memorized fades with time, but a lesson lived becomes part of one's very breath. The ancients spoke often of this truth. A disciple once asked why his master never explained the philosophy behind a simple daily ritual. The master replied, "When you sweep the floor with your full attention, the floor will teach you." In the same way, the discipline of restraint, the practice of remaining untouched in sacred times, carries its own teaching. It is not about theory, it is about transformation. To pass through such a period without allowing intrusion is to discover a new lightness in the body, a clarity in the mind. The spirit feels less burdened, as though old weights have been set down. This freedom is not granted by another, it is earned through discipline, through the quiet choice to protect what is sacred, and in this choice, the teaching moves from the page into the blood. You no longer speak of restraint, you embody it. You no longer reflect on clarity, you walk with it. The boundary between knowledge and being dissolves. What was once practice becomes nature. This is the hidden reward of mastery, to live in such a way that the teaching no longer sits outside of you, but breathes through you. At that point, wisdom is not something you recall, it is something you are. To become the teaching is the final step, and it is reached not by explanation, but by living with unwavering discipline. The final days of August are not simply numbers on a calendar, they are a reminder of how discipline shapes the course of life. To move through this time with awareness is to practice the essence of self-mastery, protecting your energy, keeping your breath steady, and holding silence like a shield. These are not grand gestures, they are small, deliberate acts that strengthen the spirit day by day. Remember, no one outside of you decides if you are chosen. It is the way you carry yourself, the way you guard what is sacred within, that marks the path. By living with clarity, by choosing restraint, you align with a higher order that cannot be shaken by noise or distraction. Take this lesson beyond August, let it guide your mornings, your conversations, and your moments of stillness. Each time you protect your field, you step closer to mastery, not in words, but in being. Thank you for walking this path with us today. May you move forward, lighter, clearer, and at peace. If this teaching has spoken to you, support our journey by liking this video and subscribing to Shaolin Soulfire. Together we continue to carry the flame of discipline and wisdom into the days ahead.